I've been promising a lot of people to talk about drone worlds for a long time, but for whatever reason I've continued to put it off. I think mostly because I think that this video is going to be a pretty large undertaking, and one that is kind of consumed and riddled with like dangerous opinions and things like that. So I'm excited to make it. I'm nervous to actually make it. So we'll see what happens, and thanks for listening to my ramblings here. But I wanted to talk about drone worlds and everything that happened there, and just kind of give it one sum up to just finalize everything that happened there. So I'm going to break this video into 3 separate pieces. The first is multipliers. These are things that kind of came together to make a bigger deal out of something than it probably should have been. And then there's the positives and the negatives. The first thing that acted as a multiplier on the event was travel. I mean, we had people coming in from all the way around the world to one place that none of us were very familiar with, and that extra added pressure of spending lots of money to get to one place adds to the complexity of what we're trying to do. Secondly, the weather.
You don't like the weather?
I don't care.
What?
I don't care.
The weather could either be beautiful or horrible. And that's kind of the nature of paradise sorts of places, is that the weather can turn on you at any moment. And we just kind of, that has the possibility of impacting things either for the better or the worse. Another thing that impacted everything was pressure, right? When you have huge stakes and lots of things going on, people start to get anxious and frustrated and nervous, and that adds to the complexity of everything else that's going on. And finally, you had uncertainty.
I'm trying to figure out.
So those coming from the United States have an experience with DSA. We knew things weren't going to go super well. Others from around the world were brought in, and they could see things weren't going super well, and as a result they started to become uncertain. So this list of things kind of comes together to magnify all of the other little issues, and that is what is creating this large, horrible situation that ended up becoming drone worlds. Alright, so now that we got those multipliers out of the way, the first thing that I want to talk about are the good things. So even though Drone Worlds was frustrating and there was lots of bad things going on, there was a lot of good that came out of Drone Worlds. First of all, they brought water this time. If you were at Drone Nationals, you knew that they didn't provide hardly anything for the pilots in terms of like food or water or whatever, and this time they made sure that they had that covered. So good on you, DSA, that's a good first step. Second of all, it was amazing to finally be able to meet people from around the world that I have seen on YouTube and seen how they fly, and kind of, it's awesome to finally bring them all to one place and get to know each of them. So hanging out with Min Chan and my friend Matthew Evans from the UK, Chad Nowak, Sean Taylor, just all of these names that you've heard from around the internet, from around the world, finally in one place to be able to meet all of them and kind of hang out with them doing what you love. Amazing. Like 10 out of 10 would recommend just for that. Another positive was that there were awesome places to fly. I did the FPV Paradise series, and I had 10, 11, 12 awesome videos of just, flying down cliffs, looping over pillboxes, and dive bombing waterfalls, and all of that was amazing. I mean, I live in Indiana, which has cornfields and soy, and to be able to go to a place where there's such awesome places to fly around, it was amazing. It was a dream. And finally, it was a really fun competition. Even though there are some things that we're going to talk about in a little bit that made it kind of frustrating, it was still a good race. We had fun, we raced well, and that combination of people from around the world, from different sets of skills and different disciplines, all came together to make an awesome competition. So we've talked about the good, but there were a lot of things that did not go very well at the event.
How's it going from Drone World 2016? Okay, moving on to the next question.
First of all, the course. So early on in the week first there was the Aloha Cup, and then there was Drone Worlds. Aloha Cup was a qualifier for Drone Worlds. So the first day we get there, the Aloha Cup course was not yet quite ready. It was not as far behind as Drone Nationals, but that being said, it was still not ready. And so we watched them put it up, we watched them finish it, and we're kind of like, we're gonna burn batteries and destroy them, and this is a pretty boring course in the first place. Like, I could set this up in my backyard. So we kind of all deferred that was, you know, this is just the qualifier. We don't need to worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. Get to the Drone Worlds course, it's really not that much better. There's a couple different vertical elements, and that's really about it. Everything there is stuff we've seen before, so we're kind of sitting back like, is this a world-class course? Or is it a not even a multi-GP event? Is it just a backyard track? And so we were all very disappointed in the course. That being said, we made the best of it. It actually helped me because I was able to make some interesting strategic decisions, but in the end, it was a pretty poor course. The second one, and the one that kind of keeps coming up that makes me kind of laugh every time, was that there, for like 150, 200 people for an entire like 5-day week of drone racing, there were 3 porta potties. 3 porta potties that didn't get cleaned once, and they were disgusting by the end of it. The next one, and one of the ones that I think is probably one of the biggest deals, is the fact that plans changed frequently during the racing. So the first example of this was that for Drone World, so for the finals of the competition, we were told that we were going to do qualifiers and we would have a minimum of 3 qualifiers. That ended up becoming true, but what they led us to believe was that we would do 3, take a break, let the other group do 3, take a break, and then keep going back and forth until we ran out of time. Now, throughout the day, the event organizers were telling us, yes, you will get to do more than 3. So as a result, people were holding back a little bit and just kind of finishing their laps and just focusing on getting around the course, rather than wasting a potential opportunity at a qualifier by going too fast and crashing out. So there are 2 groups of qualifying pilots. The first one went for their 3, and then the second group got in. The second group was pretty sure, watching what was happening, that there's not going to be another set of qualifiers. So we were able to drop, and I was in the second group, I will admit to that. So we were able to drop our best times right away as soon as we knew that that was happening. Group 1, however, is still assuming that they're going to get another chance, but they got screwed out of that. So there's this huge diaspora of the ability to qualify based on times because plans were changing, and that is wildly inappropriate.
Sounds like Group A is not getting another run today.
Yeah, now they told us that the group that had flown yesterday here on the first course had only 1 more pack. So I get my safe times yesterday because I said I got 3 more today. Yeah, and now I got only 1 more.
So you took it easy yesterday, knowing that you could push it a little harder today.
Yeah, sure.
But that's not fair because they changed the rules on you.
Yeah.
I made some strategic errors. If I had known what I know now, things would be very different.
Like, it was not a fair race because of that, it is a big deal. It is a bad thing.
Well, if you tell me I'm going to race that much to get into the qualifiers, you know, you got a certain strategy that you want to follow, and you can't just tell someone after the 3rd heat that they're not going to fly again. You know, it doesn't work like that.
And another example of plans changing and kind of not having the right backup plans available for plans to change was that the timing system didn't work. At a certain point, the weather affected the timing system to the point where it was not picking up laps.
The timer system just it's taking a beating. Tropical weather, you're in Hawaii, you got lots of rain, lots of wind, and the time system just got beaten down.
Now, qualifying for finals was based on how fast you did your laps, and it had to have your times because where you finish in the race, independent of everybody else, still mattered. When your timing system isn't working and your qualifications are based on your time, you don't have a fair race. So their solution was just give the judges their cell phones and let them time it by hand.
4, 3, 2, 1, go!
7? Which one? 7? You're doing manual times.
But I mean, I'm sitting there watching people like miss it or, you know, have the lap slightly slow or something like that. You know, and that's a huge deal. It gives somebody a half-second advantage. And in a course where you have the best pilots in the world, that half-second is an eternity. And so as a result, the qualifications, everything about it got totally destroyed. And as a result, It was not a fair qualification process. To go along with that, there was this systematic failure to deliver on promises. So not only did, when things weren't quite going to plan, they would promise us one thing and then the end result would be another.
So that way everybody's going to get 4 laps, 4 rounds, I'm sorry.
To get into the qualifiers, you know, you got a certain strategy that you want to follow, and you can't just tell someone after their third heat that they're not going to fly again, you know, it doesn't work like that.
So when your qualifications are based on your cumulative lap times, and they promise you that a timing system will be ready and that it is recording laps, but you have people recording it with cell phones, is not okay. So then there's a number of different examples where they would promise something and then it would not happen. Another thing that I think didn't go very well was that pilots themselves were not prepared.
So many times people were not ready. They were looking for people that were not in their shares. You did absolutely the best you could do with the people there. The walk-up went a lot smoother because everybody was ready on time every single time.
Right? So you would have pilots sitting down on the line, and you'd have 6 guys ready to go, and then 2 more are still trying to figure out how to change their VTX. And it's like, okay, this is the World Championships of drone racing. If you do not know how to change your VTX and do not know when to pull yourself out of the race because of technical issues, you don't belong at the world competition. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is.
One of the problems is actually us. You say, we go, we go. And today you were not nice, and that went a lot faster. But the problem was there was too many people that was not ready. It caused a lot of days. That's what I saw. When people is not ready, you have to go.
And so as a result, what we kind of found was that pilots were continuing to get behind and behind and behind, and that would push us further off our deadlines, making the organizers under-deliver on their promises and ruining things like qualifiers. So, you know, that's a double-edged sword, right? Because it's sometimes pilots' fault, sometimes organizers' fault, whatever. But that being said, pilots need to get their shit together. You need to know how to have everything ready so that when you sit down to plug in and go, you're ready. Next, the weather. So it was a multiplier, but it was also a direct issue. You know, we'd be sitting there ready to go, and all of a sudden we'd take off, and 2 laps in, there's rain. So now we have to fetch batteries, fetch crashed quads. If somebody had a technical issue because of rain, they have to go fix it or grab another quad. And so rain delays just for the rain itself was 10 minutes, but then we'd have to wait 10 minutes for everybody to get their stuff ready to get back on the line to go flying again. And so, and it rained twice a day, no matter what. And that's just kind of the nature of where we were. Again, it was a multiplier, but the weather was a massive impactor on the schedule and on the delays and on the under-promising and on the delays of pilots, right? So everything is kind of coming together and making this mishmash of craziness. And that's how it's going. That's fine. But in the future, we should have races in places like Las Vegas. There's no weather, there's no change of temperature throughout the year, and everybody can get there really cheaply. Like, just kind of think like that. That's the kind of thing that we need to be thinking about when we're putting on a world-class race. Next, and this is going to potentially sound really pretentious or stupid because I did get second, but to be honest, the prizes were really underwhelming. For example, at Drone Nationals, I won about $4,000. At Drone Worlds, I am only entitled to $2,500, which is fine. Don't get me wrong, I'm not there for the money. I'm there for racing against people from around the world and being part of a community that I love. But come on. and I have not received that money yet. It's almost been 30 days since the event, and I have heard nothing from the organizers, nothing about what it is, because I genuinely believe that it's not there. I think I'm going to get paid. I don't think that DSA can legally not pay us at this point through one form or another. But I do not think that the money actually physically existed at the time, and that's why we were told it's going to be 30 days later. I don't think you could find any other event anywhere where that money is not paid as a check right there as soon as you won. Another thing were the trophies. So the trophy that we got was a tiki, which is cool. I thought that was a great idea. until they said the story behind it. And what Scott and the DSA claimed was that, you know, they were driving along one day and they saw, oh, this would be an awesome trophy, let's grab it. Which really just leads me to believe that that spin on we forgot and couldn't really afford good trophies, so we saw these last minute and grabbed them and brought them. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but the fact that on the back of the trophy was a sticker and Sharpie showing that I was in second place. So, however you want to read into that, feel free. That's kind of what I think. Another thing that I think impacted the issue was that we didn't have experienced race organizers running the race. Joe Scully, for example, has run hundreds of races around the world, but we instead had Adam, and I love Adam, don't get me wrong, he did an awesome job despite what he was up against, but Adam has run, what, 4 or 5 races? Someone like Joe has run hundreds. And so this lack of experience with the race line showed itself in addition to pilots and weather and promises and changing plans and all of these things. So in the end, I actually don't put the blame with anyone in particular. I think that in general, it was everyone's fault. I think because of the expectations that we had going into the event, and because of the failure to deliver on some promises that were made, you can see that there's sides of both sides of the fence here that are coming together to create this mishmash of chaos, right? Because of these multipliers and because of our expectations going in, nothing met them. Nothing met our expectations because our expectations were a world-class event. Now, the fault lies with the DSA as well, because things were promised as this is a world-class event. This is the biggest thing in the world. And it really wasn't. It was cool. It was fun. It was great to have a lot of people from around the world. Would I call it a world-class event? Probably not. But that being said, what's done is done. How do we move forward from here? And to be honest, I'm not really sure. I don't run races. I just go to events and fly. I know there's things here that we could have prevented if we had thought about them differently ahead of time. Both the pilots and the organizers could have come to the table more genuinely and with a better interest in running a good race. But you know, in the end, what I think we as a community need to do is to agree to work together to solve the problem. Don't sit around and point fingers and blame and be frustrated. You know, creating groups like RIP DSA and things like this, they don't help solve the problem. The problem is solved by demonstrating what it means to be a good race event, rather than pointing the finger and calling out individuals. What we need to do is kind of dig back into what I call servant leadership. Sit back away from the blaming and the finger pointing, and instead work hard to solve the problem. Don't be a part of the issue, but instead work as hard as you can to find the solution and to help drive success for everyone involved. Be done with this attitude of entitlement and instead become a community of people that help each other, and a community that drives to success everyone's attitudes, and be instead a community that uplifts everyone, that pushes hard to find excellence in everything we do. This burgeoning sport is something that I care about very deeply, and I think the majority of you do as well. So rather than sitting around and blaming one another, let's work together to solve problems no matter what. Can we agree to that? Thanks.